Dad, we flew to Europe to get away from you, my daughter wrote when I was waiting for them at a perfect Thanksgiving dinner. I spent the whole day cooking, set the table, and they disappeared. I wasn't upset. I made one phone call. A week later, I had 37 missed calls. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what time it is where you are now. The message glowed on my phone screen. Old man, we flew to Europe to get away from you. Stop bothering us. I sat at the dining table, surrounded by empty chairs and cooling food. The turkey had been perfect 2 hours ago. Now a film of congealed fat dulled its surface. The candles had burned halfway down, wax pooling around the brass holders my wife once polished. The day had started differently. I woke before dawn, energized. Thanksgiving with Jennifer and David. Real conversation, laughter. I measured coffee grounds with steady hands. Jennifer answered on the fourth ring. Yeah, Dad, 7. We'll be there. Her voice carried that distracted quality I'd learned to ignore. Traffic noise filtered through the line. I'm making all your favorites. Great. Gotta run. See you tonight. The dial tone buzzed. I set the phone down and turned to the 20-pound turkey waiting on the counter. My hands knew the motions. Rinse the cavity. Season inside and out with sage, thyme, black pepper, salt. The same recipe Margaret used for 30 years. The turkey went into the oven. I set timers, moved through the kitchen with purpose. Potatoes needed peeling. I filled the sink and worked methodically, the peeler scraping in steady rhythm. Cranberry sauce from scratch. Margaret insisted on it. I measured sugar, squeezed oranges, watched the berries burst and bubble. The kitchen filled with tart sweetness. For a moment, standing at the stove, stirring slowly, I felt almost whole. The memory surfaced without warning. 3 years ago, Jennifer at this same table, hands wrapped around a coffee mug. Dad, I hate to ask, but could David and I stay here while we look for a place? Just temporarily. The house felt cavernous after Margaret died. Jennifer moving back in meant voices, movement, life. You don't have to ask, honey. This is your home. Stay as long as you need. Just a couple months, I promise. 3 years. I basted the turkey and pushed the memory aside. By 6 o'clock, everything was ready. I set the table with Margaret's good china, the set with the blue rim from our wedding, linen napkins folded into triangles, silverware aligned precisely. In the center, rust-colored mums from the grocery store. I stepped back and surveyed my work. It looked like a family would sit here. 7 o'clock came. I sat in my chair at the head of the table and waited. 7:30. I checked my phone. No messages. Maybe traffic. Austin traffic was unpredictable on holidays. 8 o'clock. I walked to the front window and looked at the empty driveway. They'd been taking Ubers lately. Something about David's car being in the shop. I'd offered to help with the repair bill. David had shrugged and said they'd handle it. 8:15. I sent a text, keeping my tone light. Where are you? Everything's getting cold. Did something happen? I watched the screen. Delivered. Then the 3 dots appeared. Disappeared, appeared again. My chest tightened. The response came through. Old man, we flew to Europe to get away from you. Stop bothering us. I read it 3 times. The words didn't change. Old man, flew to Europe. Get away from you. I set the phone down on the white tablecloth. My hand didn't shake. I noticed that with odd clarity, my hand was perfectly steady. The turkey sat on its platter, surrounded by roasted vegetables. The gravy boat, the cranberry sauce in Margaret's crystal dish, the rolls in the basket. All of it waiting. Another memory came sharper. 6 months ago. I'd walked past the guest room, their room, and heard David's voice through the door. Why are we even looking at apartments? Your dad's alone in this big house. He probably likes having us here. Jennifer's response was quieter. I don't know. We said it was temporary. Temporary was 2 years ago. Face it, this works for everyone. I'd continued to my own room, closed the door quietly, told myself I'd misunderstood. A knock at the back door pulled me from the memory. Through the kitchen window, I could see Linda Harrison from next door, concern etched across her face. I stood and walked to the door, opened it just wide enough to be polite. Elwood, I saw your lights still on. Is everything all right with the dinner? Her eyes moved past me to the untouched feast on the table. The single water glass at my place, the empty chairs, the cold food. Everything's fine, Linda. Just running late. You know how it is. If you need anything, I appreciate it. Good night." I closed the door before she could respond. Through the window, I watched her walk back across the lawn, glancing back once before disappearing through her own door. I returned to my chair. The candles had burned low, flames guttering in their own wax. I sat and looked at the empty places. Jennifer's chair, David's chair, Margaret's chair, empty for 6 years now. The property deed was in my study, in the filing cabinet's second drawer. I'd put it there after Margaret died, along with the will, the insurance papers, all the documents that proved this house was mine, that everything in it was mine. I stood slowly and walked down the hallway, my footsteps the only sound in the vast silence. Dawn broke through the study window, painting the desk in shades of amber and gray. I hadn't moved from my chair. The property deed lay in front of me, corners aligned with the desk's edge. Around it, I'd arranged other documents: the original purchase agreement from 1998, the title insurance policy, Margaret's will that left everything to me. My coffee had gone cold hours ago. The mug sat untouched on a coaster. A ring of sediment settled at the bottom. I'd spent the night making lists: times, dates, promises broken. Jennifer saying just a few months on April 12th, 2022. The first time I overheard David's comment about the old man's house in September 2023, the gradual accumulation of their belongings in rooms that had been mine, the home office converted to David's gaming setup, the guest bathroom filled with Jennifer's cosmetics. On a fresh legal pad, I wrote another memory. 2 months ago, I'd come home from the grocery store to find David in the kitchen, opening mail addressed to me. "Hey, Elwood, this bill looks high. You might want to check if they're overcharging you." He'd held my electric bill between his fingers like he had a right to examine it. When I'd reached for it, he'd set it on the counter with a patronizing smile. "Just trying to help. We all need to watch expenses, you know." "We," as if his name was on anything. I stood and stretched, joints protesting. Through the window, the neighbor's house was dark. Linda would be awake soon, starting her morning routine. She'd probably worry about me today, wonder if she should check in. I made a mental note to be visible, to seem fine. The bathroom mirror showed a man who'd aged overnight. Gray stubble, deep lines around my eyes. I shaved carefully, dressed in pressed slacks and a button-down shirt. If I was going to do this, I'd do it properly. At 9 o'clock, I picked up my phone and dialed. Marcus Webb answered on the second ring. "Judge Turner, this is a surprise. Marcus, I need your help. Legal help." A pause. Marcus had been my assistant when I presided over family court. 15 years of watching me issue rulings, draft opinions, manage my docket with precision. He knew how I worked. "Of course. What's the situation?" "Can you meet this afternoon? I'd rather discuss it in person." 2 o'clock at my office work? I'll be there." I spent the morning documenting. Walked through each room with my phone, photographing everything. Jennifer's clothes spilling from the closet in the primary guest suite. David's dumbbells occupying the sunroom I'd used for reading. Their dishes in the sink, left from whenever they'd eaten before flying out. In the main office, my office, I reminded myself, David's computer equipment covered the antique desk Margaret had refinished. Dual monitors, gaming keyboard with bright LED lights, tangled cables everywhere. I photographed it all methodically. Click, click, click. The drive to Marcus's office took 30 minutes. Downtown Austin traffic moved sluggishly even on the Friday after Thanksgiving. I kept my hands at 10 and 2, drove exactly the speed limit, focused on the road. The familiar route calmed me. Turn left on 6th Street, right on Brazos. Park in the garage below Marcus's building. His office was on the 12th floor. Glass walls overlooking the city. Leather chairs, certificates framed on the walls. Marcus had done well for himself. He stood when his assistant showed me in, extended his hand. "Judge Turner, please sit." I settled into the chair across from his desk and pulled out my folder. "I need to evict my daughter and son-in-law from my home." Marcus' expression didn't change. He waited. "They moved in 3 years ago. Temporary arrangement while they looked for a place. They never left. Last night was Thanksgiving. They promised to come for dinner, then sent me a message that they'd flown to Europe to get away from me." I slid my phone across the desk, showing him Jennifer's text. He read it, nodded slowly, slid it back. Do they pay rent? No. Any written agreement? No. How long have you wanted them to leave? I considered the question. I didn't, at first. After Margaret died, having them there helped. But over the past year, maybe longer, it's become clear they're not guests. They're occupying my home. Marcus picked up a pen and began making notes. Texas property law is straightforward here. They're guests without a lease. You have every legal right to request they leave. 30-day notice? Correct. Given their family and have established residence for over a year, 30 days is appropriate. Formal eviction notice properly served. If they refuse to vacate after that period, we file for eviction through the courts. And they can't fight it? Marcus met my eyes. Judge Turner, you know as well as I do. You own the property. They have no lease, no legal claim. They can try to contest, but this is straightforward. The law is entirely on your side. I felt something settle in my chest. Relief, maybe? Or just recognition. I want to proceed. I'll draft the notice today. You'll need to serve it personally when they return. Do you know when that will be? No. The text said Europe. I assume a week, maybe 2. When they return, you serve them the notice. Both of them, separately if possible, to eliminate any argument about proper service. After 30 days, if they haven't vacated, we file the eviction petition. Marcus paused, set down his pen. Judge, I have to ask, are you certain about this? Family evictions can be complicated emotionally. I sat at a table last night, Marcus, waiting for my daughter. I cooked all day, set out the good china. She sent me a text calling me old man, and said they flew to another continent to avoid me. In the house, I own. Yes, I'm certain. He nodded. I'll have the paperwork ready by Monday. If you need anything before then, call me. The drive home felt different. The house looked different when I pulled into the driveway. Not the family home I'd shared with Margaret, not even the lonely space I'd rattled around in after she died. Property. My property. Currently occupied by people who'd confused my kindness for weakness. Inside, I walked through the rooms again. This time I wasn't documenting. I was reclaiming. This hallway led to my bedroom. This kitchen was where Margaret taught Jennifer to make pie crust. This dining room held memories of birthdays, holidays, quiet Sunday dinners. In my study, I sat at the desk and opened my laptop. The screen glowed to life. I pulled up a blank document and began typing. Notice to vacate Jennifer Turner, Collins, David Collins. This was not vengeance. This was justice. The distinction mattered. The courier arrived Saturday morning while I was reviewing the draft one last time. A young woman in a uniform handed me the thick envelope from Marcus's firm, waited while I signed the tablet, then disappeared down my driveway. I spread the contents across my desk. Notice to vacate, properly formatted on legal letterhead. Credit card authorization termination forms, already processed through my bank. Copies of the property deed with my name alone listed as owner. Marcus had included a brief note on his business card. Everything in order. Call if you need anything. M.W. The travel confirmation had been easy to find. David left the shared computer in the office, logged into his email Thursday morning before they left. Paris, 3 nights, returning Sunday at 10:45 in the morning. I hadn't needed to search. It was simply there, another piece of their carelessness. I slipped the documents into a manila envelope and set it aside. Saturday passed slowly. I cleaned the kitchen, did laundry, moved through the house with methodical purpose, reclaiming space with each task. Sunday morning, I positioned everything carefully. The envelope on the coffee table, centered precisely. My armchair angled to face the front door. I made coffee, drank it slowly, waited. The clock above the mantel ticked steadily toward noon, 11:15. The sound of tires on asphalt, car doors slamming. Their voices carried through the closed front door. Jennifer's laugh. David's complaint about the airline losing his luggage temporarily. Dad, we're home. Jennifer's voice had that casual entitlement, the assumption I'd be grateful for their return. I remained seated, coffee mug balanced on the chair's armrest. Footsteps in the entryway, the sound of luggage wheels on hardwood. Maybe he's out. Come on, let's get unpacked. David's voice dismissive. Then silence as they entered the living room and saw me waiting. Jennifer stopped mid-step. David bumped into her from behind. They stood there, framed in the doorway, their carefree expressions sliding into confusion. "How was your trip?" My voice came out colder than I had intended. Jennifer's smile wavered. "Wonderful. Finally, some peace, and I'm glad you enjoyed yourselves." I cut David off, the words precise as a blade. "I have something for you, a souvenir of sorts." I picked up the envelope, extended it toward Jennifer without standing. She took it automatically, her movements uncertain. David moved closer, reading over her shoulder as she pulled out the papers. The transformation was immediate. Jennifer's hands began to shake. David's face flushed red, then went pale. They looked at each other, back at the documents, then at me. "What is this? A joke?" Jennifer's voice pitched higher. I kept my expression neutral, my tone flat. "Read it carefully. 30 days. That's what the law requires." David snatched the papers from her hands. "You can't evict us. This is our home, too. Check the property deed. Always has been mine. Always will be." I watched them process this. Jennifer's mouth opened, closed. Her eyes were filling with tears, the manipulation I'd anticipated. Right on schedule. "Dad, come on. You can't be serious. I'm your daughter." "Exactly why this hurts." I stood now, smoothing my shirt. "But you made your choice on Thanksgiving." "We'll apologize. We didn't mean—" "You meant every word. Get away from you." Message received. David was still reading, his finger tracing down the page. When he reached the credit card section, his head snapped up. "Wait, you canceled the credit cards too?" "Every authorization, every account where I made you users, all revoked yesterday morning." Jennifer's tears were real now, panic mixing with disbelief. "But we need those. How are we supposed to get jobs, pay bills, like adults?" I moved toward them, and they stepped apart instinctively, creating a path. "You have 30 days. I walked between them, down the hallway to my study. Behind me, David's voice rose to a shout. "This is insane! You're not thinking clearly. We're not going anywhere." I didn't respond. Entered my study, closed the door with deliberate gentleness. The lock clicked home, a sound I'd never needed before. Through the wood, their voices came muffled but frantic. Jennifer's higher pitch, David's aggressive bass, overlapping in a symphony of panic. I sat at my desk and allowed myself a moment. Not triumph, exactly. Something colder. Justice beginning to take shape. The phone in my pocket buzzed, a banking app notification confirming the final credit card cancellation had processed. I pulled it out, checked the screen. Every card, every authorization, they were truly on their own now. The next move would be theirs. Monday morning arrived heavy with silence. Jennifer and David stayed in their room, their voices carrying through the walls in angry whispers that occasionally erupted into shouts. I made breakfast, ate it alone at the kitchen table, washed my dishes. The newspaper lay unread beside my coffee. I was listening. The old man's having a tantrum. David's voice loud enough to be intentional. "Give it a week." Jennifer's response was quieter, uncertain. I couldn't make out the words, but the tone was clear. She wanted to believe him. I pulled out my journal and made a note. Monday, December 1st, 9:47 a.m. Subjects continuing to treat situation as temporary. No apparent effort to seek alternative housing. Tuesday afternoon, I was in the study when I heard Jennifer's car pull into the driveway. 30 minutes later, the front door burst open with enough force to rattle the frame. "Elwood," she never called me by my first name. I set down my pen and walked to the kitchen where I'd planned to start dinner anyway. By the time she found me, I had a pot of water heating on the stove. "You actually did it. You canceled everything." Her face was blotchy, mascara smeared. I opened the cupboard, selected pasta, measured out a portion. 1 serving. "I told you I would." David appeared behind her, crowding into the kitchen doorway. His aggressive posture, chest out, shoulders back, might have worked on someone else. "This is financial abuse. You can't cut off your daughter." I poured the pasta into the boiling water, stirred it slowly, then turned to face them. "I'm not cutting her off. I'm cutting her loose. You both have jobs. Time to use them." Jennifer's voice cracked. "We can't afford to live on our salaries." "Then you've been living beyond your means." I returned my attention to the stove. Not my responsibility. The coffee shop incident had apparently been the final straw for her denial. She'd told me once it was her Tuesday ritual. Expensive latte, pastry, her small luxury between client meetings, standing at the register, card reader beeping its rejection, the barista's apologetic confusion, people in line behind her checking phones, shifting weight from foot to foot, Jennifer fumbling for another card, hands shaking. Same result. The bank representative had been professional, neutral. Authorized user privileges revoked by primary account holder. All changes processed per his request. Jennifer had called from her car in the parking lot, voice rising with each sentence until she was shouting at someone who couldn't help her. Now she stood in my kitchen, the reality finally settling in. What are we supposed to do? Find an apartment, pay your own bills, be adults. I didn't watch them leave, just stirred my pasta and waited for the water to return to a boil. Wednesday passed quietly until evening. I'd seen David's car leave mid-afternoon, return around 5. Through the window, I'd observed them unloading what looked like legal documents. They went straight to their room. The knock came at 6:15. I opened the door to find a woman in business casual holding a clipboard. "Are you Elwood Turner?" "I am. You've been served." She handed me an envelope, marked it on her clipboard, and walked back to her car before I could respond. I closed the door, carried the envelope to my study, opened it carefully, removed the documents, read every word. Petition for psychiatric evaluation. The language was clinical, detached. Subject exhibiting sudden irrational behavior. Termination of family relationships without reasonable cause. Financially punitive actions suggesting paranoia or cognitive decline. Potentially a danger to himself. I read it twice. Set it down on my desk, aligned it with the edge. Sat back in my chair. They'd gone further than I'd anticipated. Not just fighting the eviction, attacking my competence. Framing my actions as mental deterioration. If successful, Jennifer could seek conservatorship, control my finances, make my medical decisions, lock me in my own house while they ran my life. Stephen Holt's name was on the filing. I didn't recognize it, but the firm address was downtown. Expensive building. The kind of attorney who specialized in aggressive tactics rather than ethics. I imagined their meeting. David leaning forward, eager. Jennifer hesitant but desperate. Holt tapping his pen, calculating angles. "Your father-in-law is how old? And this behavior is completely out of character? Could be dementia, paranoia, poor judgment. We petition for a psych eval. If he's deemed incompetent, the strategy was clear, smart even. Attack my mental state, make me the problem instead of their exploitation. Paint the victim as the villain." I stood, walked to the window. Outside, the neighborhood was settling into evening. Linda's house showed lights in the kitchen. A dog walker passed under the streetlight. Everything normal, peaceful. I wasn't angry. Anger would be a distraction. This was strategy. They'd escalated. Now I would counter. I returned to my desk, opened my laptop, typed into the search bar, Austin Elder Law, attorney defending competency challenges. 3 names appeared. The first was Diana Clark, her profile photo showing a woman perhaps 50. Direct gaze, credentials listed below. Specialized in elder law and capacity litigation. Successfully defended multiple clients against unwarranted conservatorship attempts. Former prosecutor, board certified, available for consultation. I clicked on her contact page and began to compose an email. Thursday morning light filtered through my study window as I stared at Diana Clark's profile on the screen. I'd spent the previous evening researching attorneys, 7 in total, but kept returning to her credentials. Family law specialist, elder rights protection, successfully defended multiple clients against unwarranted conservatorship attempts. Former prosecutor. The reviews mentioned her directness, her competence, her genuine care. I closed the laptop and reached for my keys. The drive downtown took 40 minutes. Traffic moved steadily along I-35, the Austin skyline growing larger through my windshield. I kept my hands steady on the wheel, my mind focused. This wasn't desperation. This was strategy. Diana's building stood on Brazos Street, professional but understated, brick and glass rather than steel and mirror. The directory listed her office on the 4th floor. I took the elevator up, found the door marked Clark & Associates Elder Law. The reception area held 3 other elderly clients, all wearing the same expression, worried, uncertain, trying to maintain dignity. A gray-haired man clutched a folder to his chest. A woman in a cardigan dabbed at her eyes with tissue. I sat and waited. Mr. Turner? Diana Clark stood in the doorway to her private office. Mid-60s, silver hair pulled back. Eyes that assessed and understood in a single glance. She extended her hand, grip firm and professional. Thank you for seeing me on such short notice. Let's talk in my office. The room held diplomas, law books, framed certifications, but also personal touches. A photo of a younger Diana with a man, both laughing, her late husband, I assumed. She gestured to the chair across from her desk. Tell me everything. Start from the beginning. I laid it out methodically. Thanksgiving dinner, the text message, the eviction notice, Jennifer and David's counterattack, the competency petition claiming I was mentally declining, making irrational decisions, potentially dangerous to myself. Diana listened without interrupting, her pen moving across a legal pad. When I finished, she looked up. Your case, unfortunately, isn't unique. I see elder financial abuse weekly. I never thought of it that way. Financial abuse. That's exactly what it is. Adult children exploiting parental generosity. She tapped her pen against the petition. But you have advantages. You acted legally, documented everything, and your background as a judge demonstrates competence. Can you help me? I can, and I will. We discussed strategy. Counter the competency claim immediately. Arrange independent psychiatric evaluation. Build evidence demonstrating not only my mental fitness, but also the pattern of exploitation behind their petition. When we reached fees, $5,000 retainer, hourly billing after that, I didn't hesitate. I'll transfer the retainer today. As the formal discussion wound down, Diana leaned back slightly. My son lives in Oregon. I haven't seen him in 2 years. The personal admission surprised me. I'm sorry. We expect our children to stay close, value what we gave them. Sometimes they just leave. My daughter stayed, but she left anyway, in a different sense. Diana met my eyes. Yes, that's often worse. Friday moved quickly. Diana arranged the psychiatric evaluation with Dr. Richard Moss, an independent evaluator with credentials Jennifer's attorney couldn't challenge. His office occupied a medical building on the west side, sterile and clinical. Dr. Moss was thorough. Memory tests, problem-solving exercises, current events questions. Count backward from 100 by sevens, please. 100, 93, 86, 79, 72. Who is the current president? Donald Trump, inaugurated January 2025. He tested my recall, my reasoning, my orientation to time and place. After 2 hours, he set down his clipboard. Mr. Turner, you're sharper than most people half your age. I'll have my full report ready by Monday, but preliminarily, I see no signs of cognitive decline whatsoever. I drove home feeling validated, but as I pulled into my driveway, my phone rang. Diana. Elwood, I'm looking at your bank statements. There are regular transfers to Jennifer's account. She has power of attorney. I gave it to her for emergencies. These aren't emergencies. $1,500 to $2,000 monthly for 2 years. Did you authorize these? The silence stretched. I watched Jennifer's shadow move past the kitchen window. No, I didn't. Diana's voice carried controlled anger. That's $45,000. This changes everything. My chest tightened. Not surprise exactly. More like a final puzzle piece clicking into place, completing a picture I'd been trying not to see. When can we meet to discuss this? Tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock, my office. I hung up and sat in the darkness of my study, adding up 2 years of betrayal in my head. The number kept growing. Saturday morning, I stopped at the coffee shop on Congress Avenue before heading to Diana's office. The barista knew my order. Black, no sugar. I carried 2 cups with me, assuming Diana took hers the same way. Practical people, both of us. She was waiting when I arrived, papers spread across her conference table, despite it being the weekend. The printed bank statements I'd reviewed overnight sat highlighted in yellow and pink, patterns emerging in color-coded evidence. You didn't sleep much. Neither did you, apparently. I set her coffee down. She took it without comment, sipped, nodded approval at the black brew. We sat. Diana walked me through each transfer. Her finger traced the timeline. Look at the pattern. First transfer 3 years ago, $500. She tested the waters. I never checked. I trusted her. That's what she counted on. See how amounts increased? 800, 1200, then regularly 1500 to 2000. The numbers blurred together. $45,000 over 2 years. This is textbook financial exploitation. The power of attorney was for emergencies only. That's what I told her. Medical decisions if something happened to me. Funding her lifestyle wasn't an emergency. Diana continued laying out the evidence. Jennifer had been careful, keeping individual amounts below thresholds that might trigger bank alerts. But the accumulation told the story. Systematic, calculated, theft disguised as authorized access. Can we prove it without criminal charges? Diana's expression softened. We can demand civil restitution. But Elwood, this is theft. Legally, it's exploitation of an elderly person. She's still my daughter, who stole $45,000 from you, and is now trying to have you declared incompetent. I stared at the statements. What would you do? I'd file for restitution. Keep criminal option available if they escalate. Show you're serious. We worked through the morning drafting the response. Diana's legal language transformed my pain into precise accusations, my anger into documented facts. By noon, both of us were hungry. There's a calf down the street. Let's get out of this office. We walked 2 blocks through December sunshine. Austin's downtown moved around us. Tourists, students, business people navigating their Saturday. Diana talked about the city changing, neighborhoods she remembered from 30 years ago now unrecognizable. The calf offered a corner booth. We ordered sandwiches, then coffee, and somehow 2 hours passed. The conversation flowed between legal strategy and personal history. James died 4 years ago. Pancreatic cancer. 6 months from diagnosis to the end. I'm sorry, it was fast, which was mercy and cruelty both. No time to adjust, but also no prolonged suffering. My wife had a heart attack. No warning. She was there, then she wasn't. Diana's hand rested on the table between us. And you tried to be perfect father after that. Fill both roles. I failed. No. Her voice carried certainty. You loved unconditionally. Some people see unconditional love as permission to take everything. Our eyes held for a moment. Something passed between us. Recognition, maybe. Understanding. 2 people who'd lost partners, who'd tried to earn love from children who couldn't return it, who were navigating loneliness in houses too large and quiet. Sunday, I reviewed the documents Diana had prepared. The house remained tense. Jennifer and David stayed in their room, emerged only when they thought I wasn't around. I heard their whispered arguments, their growing panic. My phone buzzed with a text from Diana. Reviewed everything? I responded. Your work is thorough. Any questions? None about the case. About what then? I hesitated, then typed, How you take your coffee? Your message mentioned some. A moment later, a photo appeared. A white mug filled with black coffee. Steam rising. Black, no sugar. You? I photographed my own cup and sent it. Same. We're practical people. Or just set in our ways. Perhaps both. Monday morning, Diana arrived at the courthouse when it opened. I wasn't with her. We'd agreed she'd handle the filing while I stayed available by phone. But I imagined her walking up those stone steps, briefcase in hand, the counter petition inside detailing everything. Dr. Moss's evaluation proving my competence, the financial exploitation evidence, the demand for $45,000 in restitution. She called at noon. It's done. Comprehensive response, challenging their petition, proving your competence, exposing the financial abuse. How long until? Holt will receive service by end of day. He'll need time to respond. Probably try to negotiate. I'm not negotiating. I know. Neither am I. We're requesting emergency hearing given ongoing exploitation pattern. The afternoon crawled past. At 4:30, Diana called again. Her voice carried a new edge. Holt's been served. He already called me. Angry. Aggressive. What did he say? He threatened to fight this hard. I told him to bring it. We have evidence. He has lies. What now? Now we wait for Jennifer to panic. Those 37 missed calls you mentioned? I think we're about to see them again. Tuesday morning, my phone rang. Diana's name glowed on the screen. He got it, and he's panicking. How do you know? He called me 3 times already, threatening to fight. When lawyers panic, they make threats. Diana's voice carried satisfaction beneath the professional tone. He's meeting with Jennifer and David this morning, showing them the evidence, explaining how serious this is. They'll call me. Probably. What will you do? I looked at my phone, imagined Jennifer's name appearing. Nothing. I won't answer. The first call came at 10:40. I sat in my study, the phone vibrating against the wooden desk. Jennifer's name. Photo from 5 years ago, her smiling at my birthday dinner. I let it ring through to voicemail. 30 seconds later, it rang again. By noon, I'd counted 8 calls. I listened to the voicemails in sequence, my expression carefully neutral, though each one landed like a physical blow. How could you? Accusations of theft? I'm your daughter. You're trying to put me in prison? The anger I'd expected. The denial. Her voice pitched high with indignation, as if I'd invented the evidence. Message 8 came different. Dad, please call me back. We need to talk about this. I can explain everything. The desperation was starting. Message 19, her voice barely holding together. Please, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Just answer the phone, please. I sat back in my chair, phone in my hand, and wondered what sorry meant to her. Sorry she did it? Sorry she got caught? The doorbell interrupted my thoughts. Diana stood on my porch, briefcase in hand, the professional excuse, but her eyes showed concern. 23 calls. I gestured at my phone on the desk. Diana set her briefcase down, pulled a chair closer. We sat in the lamplight, case files open between us that neither of us looked at. The phone lit up again. 24. You don't have to answer, she said quietly. I know, but you're wondering if you should. I'm wondering what the 38th one will say, if there'll be truth in it, or just more desperation. Diana's hand found my shoulder. The touch was simple, human. Sometimes pain is the only teacher that works. Wednesday morning brought more calls. They resumed at 7 before I'd finished my first coffee. I moved through the house mechanically, shower, breakfast, newspaper, while my phone performed its insistent dance across the kitchen counter. In the hallway, Jennifer emerged from her bedroom. She looked like she hadn't slept. Red eyes, hair uncombed, wearing the same clothes as yesterday. Our eyes met. Dad, please, 5 minutes. Just listen. I continued walking. Not running, not rushing, just moving forward. I know I messed up. I know. But we can fix this. I paused at my study door, didn't turn. 30 days, Jennifer. Find somewhere to live. Dad? The door closed between us. Minutes later, David appeared in the hallway, blocking my path to the kitchen, his shoulders squared, chest out, the aggressive stance of a man with no real power trying to project some. You're really going to do this? Destroy your own daughter? I'm not destroying anyone. I'm protecting myself from being destroyed. She made mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. $45,000. Over 2 years. That's not a mistake. That's a pattern. We'll fight this in court. You already tried. I met his eyes. How's that working for you? He had no response. Stepped aside. I walked past him to make my coffee. By Wednesday evening, my phone showed 37 missed calls. The last one came at 6:15. Then silence. Jennifer's exhaustion or surrender, maybe both. Diana arrived at 7, let herself in. I'd given her a key the night before, a practical gesture that felt like something more. She found me in the study, the phone finally quiet on my desk. 37 calls, I said. I counted. Didn't answer any of them. How do you feel about that? I considered the question. Like I'm punishing her, but also like I'm finally not being punished. Diana settled into the chair beside me. You're not being cruel. You're being clear. I don't want to destroy her. I want her to understand what she did. Understanding often comes through consequences. Her voice was gentle but firm. Sometimes pain is the only teacher that works. And if she doesn't learn, then you'll know you tried everything and you can move forward without guilt. Her hand found mine on the armrest. Neither of us pulled away. We sat there in the lamplight, the phone dark and silent between us, the house quiet, except for the distant sound of Jennifer crying in her room. Tomorrow's the hearing, Diana said finally. Are you ready? I looked at my phone. 37 missed calls. No new ones for the past hour. As ready as I'll ever be? Will she show up? She has to. It's compulsory. You'll see her there. Later, standing at the door as Diana prepared to leave, I picked up my phone one last time. 37 missed calls. I wondered what the 38th would have said, but I'd never know. In the morning, we'd face each other in court instead. Thursday morning, I stood before my bathroom mirror, adjusting my tie. The suit felt foreign after months of casual retirement clothes, but today required the judge persona, not the father. My hands were steady. Whatever happened in that courtroom, I'd face it with dignity. Diana's text came at 8. Meet at courthouse. Front steps, 8:45. Hearing at 9:30. I arrived early. She was waiting, briefcase in hand, navy suit sharp and professional. Our eyes met, mutual assessment, mutual support. No words needed. Jennifer's car pulled up at 8:50. She emerged slowly, diminished. David followed, his jaw tight with anger. Stephen Holt climbed out last, looking worried despite his expensive suit. We entered the courthouse in separate groups, a canyon of silence between us. The waiting area outside courtroom 3 held 2 benches facing each other. We sat apart. Jennifer stared at the floor. David glared at me. Diana reviewed her notes. I watched the bailiff's door. Monroe versus Turner Collins. Courtroom 3. The courtroom was smaller than I remembered from my days on the bench, but still imposing. Judge Patricia Monroe entered, woman in her mid-50s, severe expression, reading glasses perched on her nose. We all stood. Be seated. She reviewed the case file, her face unreadable. This is a preliminary hearing regarding eviction notice and allegations of financial exploitation. Ms. Clark, proceed. Diana stood. This was her domain. Your Honor, the notice to vacate is legally sound. Mr. Turner owns the property solely. She laid the deed on the judge's desk. Respondents are not tenants with a lease, but family members, given temporary accommodation. How long have they resided there? 3 years, Your Honor. Originally temporary while they sought housing. They never left. And the financial allegations? Diana presented the bank statements, each transfer highlighted. 2 years of unauthorized transfers totaling $45,000. Ms. Collins held power of attorney for emergencies only. Lifestyle expenses don't qualify as emergencies. Judge Monroe examined the documents carefully. Diana continued, methodical and devastating. The psychiatric evaluation, the pattern of escalating theft. The evidence spoke for itself. Holt's counter-arguments rang hollow. Your Honor, this is a family matter. Mr. Turner is evicting his own daughter over a disagreement. Over $45,000 in unauthorized transfers, Counselor. That's not a disagreement. He's elderly, living alone in a large house. They provided companionship. Diana stood. Objection. No evidence supports that claim. They occupied his home rent-free while taking his money. Sustained. Mr. Holt, stick to legal arguments. Holt had none. He appealed to emotion, to family bonds, to sympathy for a daughter losing her father's love. But facts don't bend to sentiment. Then Jennifer stood abruptly. Everyone froze. Dad, her voice cracked. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for any of this. Ms. Collins, this is improper. Sit down. Jennifer ignored the judge, eyes locked on mine across the courtroom. I never wanted to hurt you. I just stopped thinking about what I was doing. I just took and took. Ms. Collins, sit down now or I'll clear this courtroom. Jennifer collapsed into her chair, sobbing. I saw it then. Real emotion finally, not manipulation. Fear and remorse and understanding all hitting her at once. David grabbed her shoulder, whether for comfort or control, I couldn't tell. Judge Monroe's ruling came methodical and final. Eviction notice, legally valid. 30-day deadline confirmed. December 30th. Psychiatric evaluation petition denied. Dr. Moss's evaluation proves competence. She looked at Jennifer. Financial exploitation requires further investigation, but prima facie evidence exists. Civil restitution proceedings continue. Ms. Collins, you're ordered to provide complete financial records. David erupted. This is ridiculous. She didn't. The gavel cracked. One more outburst and you'll be held in contempt, Mr. Collins. If evidence supports criminal exploitation, Judge Monroe continued, I'll refer this to the district attorney's office. This hearing is concluded. In the hallway, Jennifer followed us, her voice echoing off marble floors. Dad, wait, please, can we talk? I stopped, turned. Faced her fully for the first time in days. She stood there, mascara running, hands twisted together. I know I messed up. I know sorry isn't enough. But I'm your daughter. When was the last time you asked how I was doing? My voice was quiet, measured. Not about money, about me. Her mouth opened, closed. No answer came. That's what I thought. I turned and walked away with Diana. Jennifer didn't follow. In the parking lot, Diana asked, "How do you feel?" I looked back at the courthouse entrance where Jennifer stood, alone. David had already gone to his car, leaving her there. Symbolic, like I won a battle, but I'm not sure about the war. The war is with yourself, whether you can live with being right instead of being loved. I considered this. Come to my house tonight? I don't want to be alone with this. She nodded. I drove home knowing Jennifer would be there, packing, knowing David would be furious, knowing everything had changed, but also knowing, for the first time in years, I had someone in my corner, and maybe that was enough. Thursday evening, the house felt different when I returned from court. Quiet, but charged. Through the walls came muffled sounds of Jennifer and David arguing. I moved past their closed door to my study without pausing. Diana arrived at 7, folder in hand. The professional pretense we both knew was unnecessary. Back patio, I suggested. More private. December in Austin meant jackets and hot tea, but the stars were visible, and we were away from the tension inside. We sat close, shoulder to shoulder, steam rising from our mugs. Legally, it went as well as we could hope, Diana said. Monroe's ruling was decisive. And practically, Jennifer has 2 weeks to find housing and move out. The financial restitution continues. You won. She paused. Why don't you look happier about it? I stared at the stars. I saw myself in her son. When you mentioned him once, is that what I've been doing? Taking what I assumed was owed to me? Diana set her mug down, her hand finding mine. My son believes I owe him for bringing him into existence without his permission. He's 38. Calls 3 times a year. Last conversation, he said I should be grateful he bothers at all. I'm sorry. Some children see parental love as debt they're owed, not a gift they're given. They take and take, then resent you for having nothing left. Her fingers tightened around mine. You didn't fail. Neither did I. We just loved people who couldn't love us back the same way. The silence stretched between us, comfortable rather than empty. I became aware of her hand in mine, the warmth of it, the rightness. When I turned to look at her, she was already watching me. I haven't... My voice caught. It's been 6 years since... I know. 4 years from me. Is this appropriate? You're my attorney. Diana's smile was small, gentle. The case is essentially over, and I stopped thinking of you as just a client weeks ago. When? The calf? When you told me about trying to be the perfect father. I saw the man, not the case. I leaned toward her slowly, giving her time to pull back. She didn't. The kiss was tentative, sweet, both of us hesitant and hopeful at once. When we separated, our foreheads nearly touched. I'm 62, I whispered. Too old for this. I'm 65. If we're too old, then everyone over 60 should just give up. Her thumb brushed across my knuckles. I'm not ready to do that. Diana stayed until midnight. At the door, the second kiss lasted longer, more certain. After she left, I could hear Jennifer crying through the walls and David's angry voice trying to reason with her, but I slept better than I had in weeks. Friday morning, I was making coffee when Jennifer knocked on my study door. She stood there alone, looking exhausted and defeated. Can we talk? I gestured to the kitchen table. We sat where I'd prepared Thanksgiving dinner, full circle to where this began. Jennifer broke down immediately. I was terrible. I can't believe how I treated you. I listened without interrupting, letting her speak. David kept saying you were fine with it, that you liked having us there. But I knew better. I just didn't want to admit it. She looked up, eyes red. Why now? Why am I admitting it now? Because in court, when I couldn't answer your question, her voice cracked. I realized I don't know you. I know your bank account. I know you'll always help me, but I don't know you. And David? We fought last night. He wants to keep fighting this. I told him I'm done. I'd rather lose everything than lose myself. I felt something shift in my chest. Not forgiveness exactly, but recognition. This was real. I'm not evicting you to hurt you, I said quietly. I'm doing it so you learn to live your own life. I know that now. I didn't before. You're 34 years old. You make $75,000 a year. You're capable of standing on your own. It was easier not to. Easy isn't always right. And I made it too easy. That's my responsibility. I met her eyes. What happens now? I move out, I pay you back, and we try again as adults. Not as parent and child I still think I am. We sat in silence for a moment. Then Jennifer asked, hesitantly, "Is that woman, Diana, is she—" "Yes. She's become important to me." "That's good. You deserve to be happy." "I didn't think I did. For a long time I thought my job was to be your father, nothing else. And now I remember I'm also just Elwood, a man who lost his wife, who's been lonely, who deserves companionship." Fresh tears spilled down Jennifer's face. I never saw that. I only saw Dad, the person who was always there. Maybe that's the problem. I was always there, so you never had to look. That afternoon, Jennifer left and returned with news. She stood in my doorway, phone in hand. "I'm signing the lease tomorrow. Studio apartment near my work." I nodded, feeling something like pride. "And Dad, thank you for not giving up on me, even when you had to give me up." After she left, I called Diana. "Can you come over tonight? I have news, good news." I hung up and looked around my house. My house again, not theirs. In a week, Jennifer would truly be gone. David, too. The space would be mine. But I wouldn't be alone in it anymore. Diana would be here. And maybe, eventually, Jennifer would visit as a guest, not an occupant. Life was rearranging itself into something I never expected. Something better. Saturday morning, my phone buzzed with a photo from Jennifer. A signed lease and 2 keys on a table. My reply was simple. "Proud of you." The courthouse on Saturday was nearly empty. Jennifer arrived with Holt, subdued and professional. Diana and I met them in the hallway outside Judge Monroe's chambers. "Ms. Collins, you acknowledge the debt of $45,000 and agree to the payment schedule?" "Yes, Your Honor. I take full responsibility." "Mr. Turner, you're satisfied with this arrangement? You're waiving criminal prosecution?" "I am, Your Honor. My goal was never punishment, but accountability." Judge Monroe closed the file. "This case is closed. I hope you all learned something from this." Outside, Jennifer approached Diana. "Thank you for representing him well." Diana's response was measured. "You made the right choice, coming to terms." Wednesday morning, a moving truck pulled into my driveway. Diana and I helped carry boxes, not because Jennifer needed the help, but because the gesture mattered. David appeared briefly, throwing his belongings into his car with aggressive movements. "You're really doing this?" he demanded. "Throwing away everything we built?" Jennifer stood firm in the doorway. "We didn't build anything. We lived off my father. That's not building. You'll regret this." "Maybe, but I'll regret it alone, not using someone else as a crutch." He stormed past, bumping her shoulder deliberately. She didn't flinch. I watched him drive away, knowing I'd never see him again. The relief was physical. The week between Jennifer's departure and Christmas was the quietest my house had been in 3 years. Diana spent most evenings there. We cooked together, watched old films, existed in comfortable silence. Her toothbrush appeared in my bathroom, her book on my nightstand. Small signs of permanence. I invited Jennifer to Christmas dinner. She asked if Diana would be there, seemed relieved when I said yes. "Can I bring something?" "Just yourself." "I'd like to make cookies, if that's okay." Christmas afternoon, Jennifer arrived carrying a tin, wearing simple clothes I recognized from years ago. She looked nervous at the door. "Where should I put my coat?" The question was small but significant. Guest, not resident. Dinner was careful at first, conversation navigating new boundaries. But Jennifer shared about her apartment, her job, asked our advice genuinely. She seemed lighter, younger somehow. "How long have you two been together?" she asked. Diana glanced at me, smiled. "Officially, about 2 weeks. Unofficially longer." "I'm glad. Really, you both deserve this." Later, watching Diana and me laugh together in the kitchen, Jennifer went quiet. When I asked what she was thinking, she said softly, "I never saw you happy like this. Not in years. I forgot how to be. Because of me. Because I took up all the space." Diana touched her shoulder gently. "You were there. But the choice to give up space was his. He's learning to take it back." I didn't just take money, Jennifer whispered. I took your home, your peace, your life. And now I have it back, and you're learning to build your own. That's the point. At the door, Jennifer hugged me, brief but genuine. To Diana, she said, "Take care of him." "I will. And Jennifer, you take care of yourself. Really take care. Not the way you used to, letting others do it." "I'm learning. It's harder than I thought." "The important things usually are," I said. "Can I come back for dinner sometime?" "Any time. As a guest, as my daughter. But as yourself, not who you used to be." "Deal." Late evening, Diana and I stood at the living room window. Snow was falling, rare for Austin, magical when it happened. She wrapped her arms around me from behind, her chin on my shoulder. My hands covered hers. "You did it," she said quietly. "We did it." "No, you set boundaries. You taught her. You let yourself heal." I watched the snow fall, feeling lighter than I had in years. Justice wasn't about destruction. It was about boundaries, accountability, teaching. Jennifer was learning. I was healing. Diana was here. At 62, life wasn't ending. It was beginning again. The snow continued to fall, blanketing everything in white. A clean slate, a fresh start. Diana's arms around me, both of us looking forward through the window at whatever came next. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.